Egypt, a place known for its dry, sandy weather and its scalding hot desert. Beautiful pyramids made out of stone adorn the landscape, while tombs and treasure of long-forgotten kings lie hidden below the vast sand dunes. Who encountered these artifacts? What information was exchanged between them? To answer these questions, let's explore a lost civilization within this short documentary. Before we jump right in, there is some information that might come in handy with the timelines. Egypt has been around for many years, 5,000 for a matter of fact, starting out as a hunter-gatherer nomadic group in the beginning of the pre-dynastic period, approximately 5,300 BC. They settled down in the Nile Valley. The Nile River split the Sahara into two parts, leaving both sides with important building materials. The weather since around 3000 BC in the Sahara Desert has been pretty much rainless. All civilizations relied on the Nile for water and nutrients to the land, also known as the gift of the Nile. A German priest named Hermann Juncker in 1928 excavated what is believed to be the earliest civilization of Egypt. Named Merimde Beni Salama, it is thought to have existed between 5000 and 4100 BC. We now know that the main crops were emmer wheat, 6-row barley, and lentils. Their livestock mainly consisted of sheep, goats, cattle, and pigs. They did also fish the Nile. Hermann Juncker excavated the site throughout 1939. Through carbon dating, the site was occupied between 4,880 BC and 4,250 BC. Unfortunately, most of Juncker's notes were destroyed in World War II. A notable archaeologist named Sir Flinders Petrie revolutionized the archaeological process and the way we look at finds. He was noted to say the importance of unconsidered trifles as means for the construction of the past. The broken earthenware of a people may be of far greater value than the most gigantic monuments. As stated by Mary Patterson in her writing William Flinders Petrie, Father of Pots, he was known to have written over 1,000 books, articles, and reviews. Sir Flinders devised his sequence dating at the site of Naqada. In 1984, Sir Flinders Petrie and James Cubell excavated over 3,000 graves from the 1st, 2nd, and up to the 3rd Naqada period. They found the Egyptians buried their dead ritualistically. Petrie and Cubell found them on their left side facing west. Next to them was found extremely thin-walled, black-topped, rippled bowls containing wheat, barley, and other items to accompany them to the afterlife. This pre-dynastic civilization traded with Nubia, known as the Kingdom of Kush. They traded spices, ivory, ebony, baboons, pygmies, stone, and even gold. They mined the deserts for important building materials such as granite, sandstone, fine limestone, travertine, known as Egyptian alabaster, and a particular siltstone, stone used to produce fine statues. The tombs excavated in the 2nd Naqada period became more elaborate. The tombs were lined with mud and some had small trinkets with gold and lapis jewelry. Within Tomb 100, they found painted walls that contained pictures of boats and warrior figures. This is important because this is the first discovery of painted records in this area. This also means that this could be one of the first historical records. King Scorpion's tomb was found by a German team in 1988. Within his tomb, 400 jars with bone labels and the first form of hieroglyphs found. It is believed that in this time, Egypt formed a unified state of farming villages. It is unknown how much fighting took place, but it is a theory that this is how powerful forces gained riches and land. And soon enough, the most powerful and wealthy force would become the ruler. At the beginning of the dynastic period, Egyptologists believed that the unification of Egypt may have begun with King Menes or with King Nermer. We know this because statues of both large and small size have the crown of Upper and Lower Egypt combined. Within the first dynasty, the tombs in cities such as Memphis began to become more complex and lively. Memphis is a large tourist attraction today because of the vast temples that inhabit the city. The most extravagant tomb of this time would be King Dean's. A good portion of the wood flooring and paintings has survived over the years. The tomb was well furnished with stone vassals, jewelry of gold, turquoise, and amethyst. In the second dynasty, the royal necropolis moved to Saqqara. The first three kings of the dynasty are found on the seal impressions of two galleries underground. The galleries are over 100 meters long in Abydos. Later kings' burial chambers are located in Abydos as well. High officials continue to be buried at North Saqqara. James Q. Bell and Walter Emery found corpses wrapped in resin-soaked bandages. Were these perhaps the precursors of the mummies to come? Egypt entered a long period of stability and prosperity as it entered into the Old Kingdom period. In this time, breathtaking monuments and artworks were created. Howard Carter is one of the most famous archaeologists of Egypt. He is famous for his discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun, otherwise known as King Tut. He started out as a painter like his father. Howard studied archaeology while working under Sir Flinders Petrie. He began his career by creating watercolor replicas of the hieroglyphs and statues inside tombs and temples. He got into the excavating part of archaeology when his horse tripped over a stair, discovering the tomb of King Mentuhotep. He had hope for King Tut, but Howard would one day find the real tomb of the Boy King. The reason King Tut's tomb was such an important discovery was that it was entirely intact. Howard had been working for 5 years searching in the Valley of Kings. Finally, his benefactor, Lord Carnarvon, grew restless at the lack of results. Carter convinced Lord Carnarvon to give him one more season to search. It was in this season Carter looked in the only place left untouched. In the Valley of Kings, there was an important site thought to be the camp where tomb builders of Ramses VI had stayed. Carter excavated the camp, making note of all that he found, and then removed the camp and started to dig underneath. Howard could not contain his excitement when he realized he found the tomb. He used a small chisel that his grandmother gave him when he was 17 in an upper corner to break a small hole into the chamber. It was there he inserted a candle. Once he was satisfied that the air was okay, he made a bigger hole and peeped in. He was astonished at the immense amount of history that lay behind a thin wall of plaster like mud. Within the unusually small royal tomb were many artifacts that helped fill in the gaps. Some of the religious artifacts would be the shrines and statues that included a life-size Anubis, and ritual beds and headrests. There were some more personal items like the vast variety of jewelry and handful of games, including 3 sets of senate. Archaeologists are led to believe that Tut was an ill child or had a hard time walking because of the 139 canes that littered the tomb. Hieroglyphics ran along walls and on many items. They ran upon a gold-plated naos that depicted daily life of all the people. Archaeologists such as Sir Flinders Petrie and Howard Carter have opened many doors to the past of ancient Egypt, such as the early cemetery that told us about the crops and items that helped them through each day thousands of years ago, or the tomb of the boy king. The items within his resting place made the cup of knowledge overflow with depictions of daily life and of rituals performed by the priests and pharaohs. Each discovery, from a small hairpin to a vast monument, has their own stories to tell. They are willing to share their information with you. It all depends on if you're willing to listen. Are you?